For 20 years, I was the invisible bank account funding a holiday celebration that everyone claimed I ruined. This past December, I stood in the shadows and listened to my son-in-law inform the neighbors that the entire family only breathed easier when I was not around. He said this while holding a drink that my money purchased. In that quiet moment, something inside me changed forever, and I decided that my days of buying affection were officially over. My name is Warren, and I am a 61-year-old retiree who simply wanted to keep my family connected after my wife passed away. Every winter, my daughter Felicity organized a massive holiday banquet with a strict clipboard in her hand. She assigned chores to everyone like a military commander, but my only instruction was always the same. She told me to just show up on time and try not to speak like the previous year. The rest of the family never wondered how the beautiful banquet hall was secured or who settled the massive invoices. Before anyone else even woke up on those chilly mornings, I had already mailed a check for thousands of dollars to the event vendors. I quietly financed the rental tables, the lighting decorations, and the catering services because being useful made me feel like I was still a necessary part of their lives. Over the years, a painful routine developed where I became the scapegoat for everything that went wrong. If the dinner was dry or a conversation became awkward, Felicity would gently blame me in front of the guests. The very next morning, she would invariably call to ask if I would mind covering the extra expenses to smooth things over. I always complied because I foolishly mistook their financial dependency for genuine love. My awakening arrived on a cold Sunday afternoon when I dropped off some extra chairs at the home of Felicity. As I walked around the patio, I heard Vance laughing loudly with the neighbors across the street. Vance told them that the entire event ran smoother when the old man stayed out of the way. My own daughter stood right beside him and laughed warmly without offering a single word to defend her father. I quietly set the chairs down and drove home in complete silence without any anger in my heart. I opened my computer and looked at 20 years of financial statements, realizing I spent a small fortune on people who viewed me as a nuisance. My doctor had recently warned me that my heart was under severe strain from stress. I decided right then that I would no longer fund a celebration where I was merely tolerated. The following morning, I called the banquet hall, the bakery, and the decorator to cancel all automatic payments. I informed the staff that if Felicity wished to continue the tradition, she could simply provide her own credit card. I did not leave the businesses stranded, but instead gave them the contact information for my daughter. It took less than an hour to dismantle 2 decades of financial manipulation using nothing but a telephone. When my son Owen visited my house a few days later, he noticed an immediate change in my demeanor. I explained the entire situation regarding the overheard conversation and the canceled contracts without leaving out any details. Owen looked at me with tears in his eyes and admitted he had wanted to speak up for years. He promised to tell the absolute truth to anyone who asked about the situation. Felicity called me soon after, expecting me to handle the floral arrangements and the cake upgrades as usual. When I calmly explained that I would not attend the party and had canceled the bookings, her voice shifted into high panic. She accused me of trying to ruin the holiday for the grandchildren out of a petty grudge. I told her politely that the venue needed her own payment methods before hanging up the phone. Within hours, my telephone began to ring constantly as extended family members sent furious messages accusing me of being selfish. The guilt attempted to creep back into my mind, and I almost considered surrendering just to maintain the peace. Fortunately, a brief text arrived from my sister Hazel telling me that she had witnessed the mistreatment for years and urged me to stand firm. Her support gave me the strength to remain completely silent. On Friday evening, Vance arrived at my front door slamming his fist against the wood with incredible anger. He marched into my living room and shouted that I was embarrassing the family and acting bitter over hurt feelings. I looked at his red face and asked him what specific commitment I had broken. When he replied that everyone simply expected me to pay, I told him the accounts were closed and ordered him to leave. On Christmas Eve, my phone vibrated continuously starting at 6 in the evening, but I chose to ignore the flashing screen entirely. Instead, I enjoyed a peaceful evening at home, eating a simple dinner and resting without any stress. Later that evening, Owen sent me a photograph of a dimly lit hall with bare plastic tables and cheap grocery store food trays. The premium services had been rejected because the credit card belonging to Vance was declined. My sister Hazel sent a following message explaining that Vance had to frantically call his bank for an emergency limit increase while the guests watched in embarrassment. Felicity tried to fabricate a medical emergency to save her reputation, but Owen ensured the neighbors learned the truth. I realized that my children preferred their pride over their father, which was the most honest revelation I had experienced in many years. Today, my life is remarkably peaceful, and my doctor says the physical strain on my heart has completely disappeared. Felicity and Vance no longer speak to me, but Owen visits every single week to share a meal at my kitchen table. I spent 2 decades trying to buy a seat at a table where I was never truly welcome. Now I understand that a smaller table filled with genuine love is worth more than any expensive holiday.